Hey Gengar Gang, what is going on? My name is Ryan, this is the Analytic Gengar, and welcome to another one of our videos. In today's video, a TCG Toolkit episode no less, the coronavirus and the Pokemon market. How a global health pandemic can help influence the prices and the state of the Pokemon collecting community. So today's video was obviously something that was very timely. The coronavirus made a pretty rapid spread to the United States in March of 2020, and this video is obviously being posted on April 3rd or April 4th of 2020. I wanted to wait a couple of weeks in order to get some data on the way that the markets are behaving, not only the stock market, but the Pokemon market, in order to help me articulate my points better. So before I get into my points, I did want to say one thing, a special thank you to all those folks who are out there on the front lines, whether it be working in grocery stores, keeping bread on the shelves, or delivering food to those who can't make it out to restaurants to get food. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart, from the bottom of all our hearts, for keeping society running and getting us the bare necessities when they are needed. And a special thank you, a true special thank you, goes out to all the healthcare professionals out there who are fighting on the front lines, quite literally putting their own lives on the risk. I could not say more other than thank you so much, because I truly don't know what it is you're going through, but I can only hope that I'm able to support in some way, shape, or form. So again, thank you. And if you so happen to be someone who's fortunate enough to be at home right now and, you know, not be in a situation where you're fighting against the coronavirus on a day-to-day basis, consider supporting in some way, shape, or form. I think it's really important that we show all of these people our gratitude, and I hope we can have a gigantic, big-ass parade for all of you when we're allowed to have parades again. So, with that said, let's get started. So this Lugia Neo Genesis First Edition card is what started this entire thing. I was watching this card because I wanted to buy this card. However, I noticed that it sold over the price that a similar PSA 8 sold for back in January. And that's where the idea hit me. I made this graph. So first things first, that blue line that you're seeing is the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Now the Dow Jones over here in the United States, if you happen to be from outside, or if you happen to not know what the Dow Jones Industrial Average is a stock market index. It is a price-weighted average index of 30 large companies in the United States. So when you hear the Dow Jones is up, it means on average, stocks are up, at least in these 30 industries, which are typically representative of other subsections of their industries. So it might have a finance stock in it, and typically that stock is indicative of how the rest of the finance world is doing. So when you hear it's up, it's a good thing. When you hear it's down, it's a bad thing. And this year, since the outbreak of the coronavirus in the United States, the Dow Jones is down about 25%. So what does that mean for us as a society? Well, when stocks are down, that typically indicates a recession, or while not always a recession, it could also indicate a shrinking economy. In this case, it's being driven by fear, because people are uncertain about how the coronavirus is going to play out, how many lives are going to be lost, unfortunately, from the outbreak of the disease, as well as several other semantics. And because of that, the industries have sort of reacted negatively to all that fear and uncertainty. So, where does that put us as a Pokemon hobby? Well, if you've watched a couple of the other investment Pokemon channels here on YouTube, you'll find a general consensus is that sooner or later deals will start popping up. And I totally agree. I think deals will start popping up. However, I did want to point out one observation that I made, and perhaps offer a little bit more of a sharper timetable, because while I've heard deals will pop up, I do want to maybe hypothesize as to when they will start popping up, so you can keep your eyes out. So first things first, I wanted to call out the Dow Jones, and as you can see, it is dropping significantly, especially in the month of March, which pretty much coincides with the outbreak of coronavirus in the United States. The other two things that I plotted on this are the PSA 8 Lugia. It sold from you know, something in the range of like 150 to close to 200 and something dollars. So it sold for about $125 more than it did in January, which is a 95% increase. And I just want to call that out because the price of that card nearly doubled in 2 months. Even though it's a PSA 8 and it's not the biggest chase card ever, it's a good looking Neo Genesis card, and dare I say, the price nearly doubled in 3 months. That is insane. The other thing to call out is flash fire boxes. And flash fire boxes, in case you missed it, are these X and Y era Pokemon boxes. They're very popular because they have Charizards on them and in them. So back in January, they were selling for $455 a piece, and then in March, one sold for $760. That is a $305 difference, and that is a 65% increase from January to March. Again, both of those increases, 95% for the Lugia and 65% for the Flash Fire box, are actually really impressive because they go against the trend of a shrinking market. Typically in a shrinking stock market, you'll see a lot of other economic losses. You figure money would get tighter, and you figure as a result of that, prices would technically drop a little bit, or at least stagnate. But Pokemon seems to be exactly opposite of that trend. Well, I began to ask myself why I think that is, and I think the answer to that question is because the Pokemon market is forwardly resilient. Forwardly resilient being a made-up term in my head, where I think at first it's going to resist the market the way the stock market is behaving. So it's not going to contract, shrink, or decline immediately. It's going to take a little bit of time. Why is that? I believe the Pokemon stock market is resilient because for years now, we've always been told Pokemon cards are on the rise, vintage stuff is hot stuff, you know, the hobby is booming. I mean, I myself don't help the topic when I go ahead and tell you and frequently remind you how much first edition Charizard sell for. So why do I do that? Well, why do any of us do it? And more importantly, what impact does that have on us? It means to say that we're almost conditioned to behave like this. We've been told Pokemon cards are getting more expensive, so we make them more expensive. That's kind of how the markets work on a macroeconomic level. And that's exactly the phenomenon that we're seeing right now. People believe Pokemon cards should be more expensive, therefore they are more expensive, even if that is in the face of a slight economic downturn or potentially a recession. And that's an interesting phenomena, to say the least. Now, again, that's my own theory, that's my own thought, and those are my opinions. They don't necessarily have to be yours, but that's just how I'm kind of observing and thinking about this happening. However, that's not to say this is going to work out perfectly and this behavior is going to keep up. And here's why. In March, when these people were bidding on these boxes and paying near $300 for Lugias and near $760 for XY booster boxes, money was still flowing. The truth of the matter is that although the coronavirus broke out in March, the true economic impact of it was probably not felt until April for many average Americans. And don't get me wrong, for small businesses and for a lot of people, they felt the impact right away when businesses closed and shuttered. However, I don't believe those are the typical investor types who invest in Pokemon cards. For those individuals, it may take a little while longer for them to feel the impact. For example, their job security may be threatened, or they may lose work, or they may no longer have the ability to work as many hours. And again, you might say, well, Ryan, I don't really, care because I'm not impacted by this. I work at, X, Y, and Z company, so I'm fine. And that's totally fine. But what you have to also consider is there is a potential that even though your company or your job may not directly deal with the impact of coronavirus, you may tangentially be impacted by it. So you might work at an alcohol distribution company and think, well, yeah, alcohol goes out all the time, whatever. until you realize that there's going to be a slowdown because you've been shipping maybe to some of the other parts of the country that haven't been impacted. But as more and more of the country gets impacted and starts shutting down, you now are going to begin to lose your customers, which means you're going to be losing business, which means you're going to be losing revenue, which means people are either A, going to get laid off, B, get sidelined for a couple days, get furloughed for a couple of weeks, or get temporarily laid off. So it's those types of considerations that need to come into play. And again, for a lot of people, I feel like that isn't going to happen until a little bit later on, probably starting about now. So what should you expect as a potential investor? Like I said, the economic effect of the coronavirus has been felt already. Let me make it abundantly clear that I'm not saying it hasn't been felt at all. It has. But I think for a very small subgroup that's willing to spend cards on Pokemon, that's willing to spend money on Pokemon during a recession and a global health pandemic, I think we're a unique group of people, and we may feel the effects a little bit later on. As a result of that, I think, and this is my theory, the best time to start looking for deals is going to be later on in April and into the summer. And the reason for that is the whole delay and lag in the economics of it. You know, we're going to see, and this is very unfortunate, but we will see the cases spread, the death toll rise, and the flattening of the curve for some of the earlier impacted countries. And then for the United States, it's going to take a little bit of time. And that is like the socio impact of the virus, but the economic impact of the virus is going to have a couple weeks delay because no one's going to feel it until they're missing work for an entire paycheck. And typically paychecks are 2 weeks out. So because of something like that, you might be out of work for 2 weeks but still get paid and then miss a paycheck. And that's when you're going to start to see those kind of snap reactions. My theory is that around the end of April, you're going to have people getting desperate who need to liquidate their collection in order to get some money for, you know, the high priority stuff like food and other bills, as you should. I often say you should not own a Skyridge box if you live in a cardboard box. So just a little bit of Ryan's philosophy for you. Either way, it's my theory that that's how that's going to play out. So if you are on the lookout for those types of deals, expect them starting in April and moving their way into the summer. I feel like, and this is just my own personal theory, the coronavirus is going to kind of die down a little bit as it gets warmer in temperature. And then what's going to end up happening is there are going to be the lasting economic impacts, which we will kind of see play out. And that's when you're going to be able to pick up some pretty good deals on random tidbits and items and booster boxes and that kind of stuff. I also imagine higher value collections are probably going to go up for sale because perhaps, and I do know quite a few people who've done this, they go ahead and they buy stuff without thinking of their own savings account. And then when something like this happens, as unforeseen as it is, they don't have a leg to stand on. So I feel like people like those with a little bit of economic stress will unfortunately be put in a position where they have to purchase, or rather where they have to sell. And unfortunately, even though it's a bad situation for them, it does create opportunity for someone to pick up a booster box at quote-unquote less than market value. So with that said, that is my theory on the coronavirus and how it will impact the Pokemon market, friends. Thank you again for joining. I would be remiss if, again, I didn't thank from the bottom of my heart those individuals who are out there. Thank you so much for everything that you do. Like I said, one big parade for everyone when we're allowed to do that again. In the meantime, I do want to encourage anyone of us who is in a better position to, you know, positively contribute in some way, shape, or form, even if that means just staying home and washing your hands. Please do that. You know, you never know until it impacts you. And unfortunately, I myself have been in a situation where people around me or family members of friends are getting sick and passing away. So it is a serious situation, and I ask you guys, if nothing else, to simply follow the basic rules of staying home, washing your hands, and keeping your 6 feet distance when you do go out to get groceries and the bare necessities, it helps a lot of people stay safe. So I do seriously and sincerely encourage you all to do that. And I mean, hey, there's a lot of us on YouTube putting out a lot of amazing content right now. So even if you don't necessarily want to check out my stuff, there's tons of other stuff. But, you know, consider showing support to those people who are trying to make staying at home a little bit better as well. Shout out to the rest of the community who's out here making videos and doing the right thing and trying to get us to stay home and do that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's going to be all from me. Like I said, thank you all again for all that you do, whether it be staying home or fighting on the front lines. If you like this video, consider leaving a comment and liking the video. I hear, wink wink, that the algorithm likes when you do that. So, you know, if you want to help support me as a channel, feel free to throw a like, throw a comment, interact, subscribe. All those things help my channel to grow, help the algorithm to come favor me a little bit more, and also hopefully help spread the word about these types of videos. So thank you all again for joining, and be safe out there. That's the most important thing. Be kind, be safe. And hey guys, I'll talk to you real soon. Peace.